Welcome guys. Can I get a final confirmation if I'm audible and if the screen is visible?
Yeah, Naveen.
Oh, let's proceed. Kindly go yourself on mute. As usual, if you have any questions, please feel free to raise your hand. Okay. Now, so I'm just logging into my VM and everybody knows what is the username and what is the password. Now, let's start now. So we are in module 3. So in this module 3, we will be learning about HDFS and Yarn commands, basically about how to work with Hadoop, basically hands-on session. Okay, so whatever I'm trying to tell you now, everything is documented. So I'll be sharing the complete details of the document. So you just focus on the topic, very important. So I'll be sharing the complete documentation. Okay, so before we proceed, first thing you have to understand how to start Hadoop, very important. So Hadoop basically, if you see, there are 5 daemons in Hadoop, right? There are 5 daemons in Hadoop. So out of these 5 daemons, 3 daemons is related to storage. So we have daemons related to storage and daemons related to processing, that is YARN. So this is for storage. This is for storage what we have HDFS, and for processing is what we have YARN. Now, before starting the service, please make a note, guys. The very first time you start a cluster, the very first time you start a cluster, the first thing you have to do is you have to format your name node. Please make a note, and this has to be done only once. I'll just repeat. The very first thing you start up your cluster. Now, if you see this, I've not started my cluster since I had shut down and I restarted my machine. I did not start my cluster, not even once. So the very first thing what you have to do is you have to format your name node. This is very, very important. Now, just follow certain instructions. Please make a note of these things because this is not documented. Please make a note of these things. So when you start up your cluster, don't start any services. First thing what you have to do is, please make a note, go to this location wherever we have installed Hadoop. So in my case, Hadoop is installed in home, softwares, Hadoop, Hadoop 2.7.3. Go to this data directory, and in this directory, let me just put that path for you. Go to this directory. Before starting, go to this directory, Hadoop, Hadoop, I think 2.7. whatever it is, and go to this data directory. And please look at this, go to this name node, and anything you have inside this name node, delete it. Please follow this instruction. Don't delete the name node folder. Please make a note. Have a pen and paper. Please make a note. So go to this name node and delete the content. I will tell you why am I doing this. And go to this data node directory, and anything you see inside this data node directory, delete it. So I've just deleted all the metadata in the name node and the data node. Now it is like the cluster is not even started once. So we're going to start a cluster from scratch. Okay. Now the very first thing you have to remember, all Hadoop based commands. All Hadoop based commands, okay, very important. All Hadoop based commands will be invoked through a binary by name HDFS. This is very, very important thing. Again, you have certain commands for HDFS. You have certain commands for processing. So all Hadoop based commands related to storage will be invoked through a binary by name HDFS. This is very, very important. So the very first thing what you have to do is, before we start a service, you have to format the name node. As I told you, all Hadoop based commands related to HDFS especially will be invoked through a binary by name HDFS. That means you have lots and lots of commands. Now let me show you that. So just open the terminal. How do you get this terminal is, if you just press Windows, you will get this in the left panel. So just click on this terminal. And if you see, we have not started the cluster. So when I do JPS, please look at this here. we have not started the cluster, so you'll not get any services. Okay. Now, as I told you that Hadoop based commands will be invoked through a binary by name HDFS. Now, when you do this, please look at this HDFS hyphen, please look at this, please make a note of all these things. HDFS, I'm invoking a DFS command, and if I do hyphen help, please look at this. You will get all the commands associated to related to file system. Rather than that, you can simply do HDFS hyphen help. Now you'll see lots of commands related to storage. Now look at this. When I click enter, now can you see this? You get lots and lots of command. For example, you get a command DFS, which is related to the HDFS file system. Using this DFS command, we will be able to move the content into the HDFS. We will be able to copy the data. We will be able to view the content. We will be able to change the permissions. We'll be able to get the statistics. We'll be able to do a lot many things using DFS command. That is what we are going to look. Apart from that, there are lots of commands. Can you see this? All these storage commands, all these things are related to HDFS. All these commands will be invoked through a binary by name HDFS hyphen help. This point you have to remember. This point you have to remember. Now, first let us see a file system command. So when I say a file system command, I hope everybody is aware of, let's say Linux, right? For example, if you want to view the content of a file, so what you will do, you will either execute LL or LS, right? You can view the content of a directory. For example, you will invoke a command cat command to view the content of a file, correct? So similarly, we will be doing all those things on HDFS. If you remember, I was telling you that HDFS sits on top of your Linux file system. This is very, very important. Your HDFS sits on top of your Linux file system. Now, as I told you, the very first thing what you have to do before we start services is we have to format the name node. Guys, whatever I'm trying to tell you, I'm trying to tell you with the latest edition. That means what industry uses. Okay, I have seen this set of commands, people explaining you with different variants like Hadoop DFS, all those things. But whatever I'm trying to stick to that. This is what is used in the industry. So the first command we are going to learn is name node hyphen format. So what this command basically does is this, before we start the cluster, the very first time, as I told you, you have to invoke this, you have to format the name node. How do you format the name node is HDFS name node hyphen format. What this particular command will does is the very first time you have to run this command, and you should run it only once. That means next time you start a cluster, you are not supposed to run this command. So what this command will do is it tries to capture the complete snapshot of your Hadoop cluster. This is very important. It tries to take a complete snapshot of your Hadoop cluster the very first time. Okay. So let me execute this command first. Please look at this. HDFS name node hyphen format. Let's see what happens when we execute this command. So the very first command is HDFS name node hyphen format. Now when you see this, it's trying to take the complete snapshot of your Hadoop cluster. And can you see this here in the location of name node? Can you see this? It has created an FS image. If you remember, we were talking about in module 1 about FS image, right? FS image basically contains the metadata information about your complete cluster. So the very first time is you have to format your name node. When you format your name node, it creates name node. In the name node, it creates an FS image which contains the complete details of your cluster, the files. Right now we don't have any files, but it tries to create one FS image. And if you see this, we don't have anything called as edit logs yet, because we have not added any files yet. So if you remember, we spoke about edit logs, the incremental changes what you do for the cluster, like adding a file, removing a file, all those transactional thing will be stored in an edit log. So when you format a name node, please understand what happens is it simply takes a complete snapshot of your Hadoop cluster and it just creates an FS image. That is the first important thing. Okay. Now let's proceed to the next important thing. Now, before invoking any commands, now we have to start the services. This is very, very important. So now we have formatted the name node. Now time is to start the services. Now you can start the services related to storage and processing, both these commands at one single script, but it is deprecated. You can simply execute start-all.sh. When you do this, what happens? It starts the services related to storage. That means we have name node, we have data node, we have secondary name node, and we have under processing, we have resource manager, and we have node manager. So when you execute this start-all.sh, it starts all the services related to storage as well as services related to processing. But it is not recommended to use this. When you execute this command, it will throw an error. It is deprecated. So you are not supposed to use this. Please make a note. It is deprecated. What is recommended to use is, there is a command start-dfs.sh. This command will start all the services related to storage. So when I execute this command and when I do JPS, you will see all the services related to storage and your data node. Let's see this. So now first thing, I'm going to start all the services. So start-dfs.sh. So this will start all the services related to storage. So let's wait for some time. Okay, now in Linux, if you want to clear the screen, you can simply press Ctrl L. It will clear the screen. Now when I do JPS, now can you see this? You will get all the three services up and running. One is your name node, secondary name node, and your data node. Now we have to start services related to processing. So the command is start-yarn.sh. And if you use environments like Cloudera and all, you will not even learn how to start and stop things like that, because everything they would have given you a quick start VM with everything started. So, but in the production, you should learn how to start and stop. So when I do the start-yarn.sh and when I do JPS, you will get all the services related to any of the services related to storage will already be there. Along with that, you will get services related to processing, resource manager, and node manager. Let us execute this. So start-yarn.sh. So this will give you all the services related to processing. So let's do JPS. And you got the list of all the services. Now, guys, can you just tell me, what do you mean by these numbers? What is this numbers is all about? Anybody?
Naveen, is this the PID?
Correct. This is a process ID. Okay. So this is a process ID of each process. That's why I was trying to tell you all these things are process. Okay. It's a JVM process. Okay. Okay. Just to ask you, can you know, do you know what is a command to kill a process? A force kill?
Kill-9.
Kill-9 and the process ID. Very good. I hope everybody is aware of that. Okay. Now we have successfully started all the services. Now let's go ahead and execute some commands. Before we proceed, any single question here? Okay. I say there's no questions. Let's proceed. So as I told you that all Hadoop based commands will be invoked through a binary by name HDFS. You have lots and lots of commands related to storage. For that, if you want to get the list of commands, what you can simply do is HDFS-help you can do. You'll get all the list of commands. So many commands we would have. There is. Okay. And in this, we have seen this name node. Now we will see something called as file system command. Very, very important command. Yeah, Santosh, go ahead.
Naveen, sorry to interrupt. So one quick question.
Yeah.
So yesterday you have executed some commands in the same machine. So
correct.
You mentioned like you have to format the name node prior to that thing. So you
yes.
didn't do
I had already formatted.
So yesterday you formatted it.
Not yesterday. Someday I had formatted. What I meant is, let me complete. What I meant is, when the machine is not even started once, Now I've given you a fresh machines.
Okay.
Not even started any service once. That time you have to format. In my case, I'd started my machine so many times.
Okay. Okay.
So I need not format. Now, for example, next time when I shut down my machine and start my machine, I need not format. I can simply start the services.
Okay.
But
Okay.
in your case, since it's a new machine, you have to format.
So it is just one time thing, right?
It's just one time thing.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, welcome. Okay. Right. So now what we are going to learn is about the file system command. DFS means distributed file system. This is what we are going to learn now. Very important. Now, first thing we will see what is there in HDFS. Very important. So to view what is there in HDFS, to view what is there in a directory, to view the content of a directory. Can you tell me what is the command, guys? To view the content of a directory. Now, for example, in this directory, I want to find out what is there. What is the command?
ls-ltr.
Okay, simple. I can just do ll, which will give me the list of content in this directory. Similarly, if I want to know what is available in HDFS, you have to invoke HDFS and the command is DFS. Please look at this. -ls, which is a Linux command, / this is a root directory of HDFS. That means now we are trying to execute ls command, list command to the root directory of what? For the distributed file system, not to the local file system. So this command will help us to list the content of the root directory of HDFS. Now when I click enter, since we have not added anything into the HDFS, you will see empty. We will see how to add all those things. Can you see this? You did not get anything because it is empty. Very important. Now let us see how to copy some data from local file system into HDFS. Okay. So I'll just note it down, but we have a detailed document. Copy data from or copy files from local file system to HDFS. That's what we are going to see. So let me create some file. Let me just create some file. 1 second. Okay, I already have this words.txt, which is in my local file system. I'll move this file from local file system to HDFS. So I'll copy. So the command is HDFS, DFS. It's all file system commands. There are two ways to copy. One is copy from local. You have to by heart these commands. HDFS, DFS, hyphen, copy from local. You have to give the local path. In my case, in which directory I am in. When I do pwd, it says I'm in npm training, but my file is in desktop. So I'll just change it to desktop. And when I do ll, I have my words.txt. So I'll move this file into HDFS. So the command is HDFS, DFS. We are invoking a file system command, DFS, hyphen, copy from local, which file? Words.txt, which is there in my local file system, to the root directory of HDFS. When I click enter, so it will move this words.txt into HDFS. Now it has already moved into the root directory. Now let us view that. HDFS, DFS, hyphen, ls, list the content of the root directory. So when I click enter, please look at this, what happens here. Can you see this here? You got the file which is there in the HDFS. So again, can you see this 3? 3 says the replication factor I've configured is 3 in this machine, right? Similarly, there is another way also to copy. This is all very important interview questions, what they ask you. So the one way to copy the data from local file system to HDFS is, this is a command. All these things is documented. I will be sharing you the document. So one way to copy the data is using copy from local. The file name I'm trying to copy to the HDFS. And there is another way to copy the data from local file system to HDFS. That is, let me just create another file. Okay, I'll just name this file as, let's say, 1. One second, let me just rename it again. Okay, I'm not sure what is it. I did not rename it. Let me just check. Okay, when I do ll, Okay, I did not rename. Let me just rename it again. Oh my God, it's not renaming. Okay, let me just create one file. Let me just create one file. Once again. Okay, let us move this words copy only. What is it? Any file. So there's another way to copy the file from local file system to HDFS. Okay, HDFS. Please look at this. This is a very important interview question. DFS hyphen put. This is another way. So we have seen that copy from local. Now we are going to see about put. There are so many commands. See, if you want to get list of commands, no, you can do HDFS, DFS. Under DFS, if you want to get all the list of things what you can execute, you can simply type hyphen help. So you'll get all the things which you can do it via the DFS command. Can you see this? You have lots and lots of command. Now, for example, I'm trying to explain you about, let's go to the top. Can you see this? I explained you about copy from local. There are lots and lots of commands. So now I'm going to explain you about, for example, put command. Yeah, Rohit, go ahead.
Naveen, can we use any external clients also for copying it?
What do you mean by external clients?
Like WinSCP or FileZilla?
You can't use WinSCP to communicate to HDFS.
Okay.
Okay, whereas, if you install, there are third-party frameworks like in Cloudera and all, there is a UI, which is built in for these kind of things. But you can't use your SCP clients. Those are the clients which connects to the Linux file system, not to the HDFS.
Okay.
Clear?
Okay.
So you should always copy the data to your local file system. From the local file system, you have to copy the data to HDFS. You don't have any clients directly to copy the data from outside. For example, we used to copy the data from WinSCP, from Windows to Linux boxes, right?
Yeah.
Like that, we don't have any tool wherein we can copy the data from Windows to HDFS directly. We have to execute this set of commands. Or
Okay.
within the Hadoop environment, they may give you, if you install Cloudera and all, there is a component by name HUEU. So using that, it's a graphical interface. Once you have the data to the local file system, you can copy the data to HDFS. That is allowed.
Okay.
But directly it doesn't allow.
Okay.
Okay, but however, in the real time, the flow of the data, when we talk about data engineering, the data will be copied to the HDFS through programmatically. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Right. Now let's learn about this put command. So please understand this is a very important one. So we have seen copy from local. Now we are going to learn about put command. So HDFS, DFS hyphen put. And the file name is, I'll just go with words. There's another one, words. I don't know it will take or not. Let me rename here. Rename. Oh, I think it's not taking that. Once again, let me just try to rename again. I'm not sure why it is not allowing me to rename. Let me just rename again. Oh, this is surprised. Okay, let me just delete this. Once again, let me just copy, and when I copy, let me just rename this one to. Oh, so, okay. I think I can't rename, but let me just create a file again. I'm not sure what happened. I'll just create another file. This file, let me delete it. Oh, it's so much. Let me just create one. I'll just create one file, one.txt. I will just add some content. This is one dot. This is one.txt. That means I've just created a file. Okay. Now I'll move this file to the HDFS. Now this time when I move HDFS DFS, I will use a put command. So I will use a put command and I'll move this one.txt to the root directory of HDFS. So let's view the file HDFS DFS-ls, the root directory. Now that file also has been moved. Now there is another variance actually. So now, for example, if you see this variant, this one.txt is there in the local file system, correct? And this I was trying to refer it as a root directory. This root directory can also be referred like this. For example, let's assume you have another file. Let me just create another file, vim2.txt. So this is 2.txt. Let me just create a file. Now, please look at this. Now, what am I doing now is same HDF, same command I will execute, but this time I will not use this thing slash. This slash means it's a root directory. You can also give something like, for example, you can also give the name node IP address also. For example, in my case, in my machine, I can move it to the HDFS with, the domain. For example, HDFS / local host dot, this information I'm trying to get it from here. Let me show you that. Cat etc host. This is all very important thing. Can you see this? This is what information I'm trying to give you. I'm trying to give you localhost dot local domain. This is what I'm trying to give you. So HDFS DFS hyphen put. I'm trying to give HDFS : the domain name is localhost dot local domain, and by default the port is 900. I'm moving it to the root directory of HDFS. I'll just give which file I want to move. The file I want to move is, which file we created, guys? Now file 2. What is the file we created now?
I think 2.txt.
2.txt.
Sorry?
2.txt.
Okay, 2.txt. I'm trying to move it into the root directory of HDFS by name 2.txt. So instead of this, we just gave slash. That is also accepted. But there is another variant for this. Just an information. So this also will help you to move. So HDFS DFS hyphen ls slash. So you'll be able to see this 2.txt. Now you can ask me one important question, that then what is the difference between copy from local and put command? This is very important, guys. Many people are not aware of this. People try to change it interchangeably. Yeah, it's fine. If your whole purpose is to just move the data from local file system to HDFS, you can either rely on copy from local, or you can rely on the put command. But there is one important difference which they will ask you in interview. Now look at this now. One important difference is the, hello? Hello?
Yes,
Guys, am I
Naveen.
audible?
Audible.
Right.
Yeah.
So the put command, basically, the fundamental difference between copy from local and the put command is the put command can take input from standard inputs. For example, the standard inputs, let's say the console is a standard input. So I can take the input from the standard input. That means, so when I do this HDFS DFS hyphen put, and you will use once again hyphen, and then what you will do, I will just give the file name as file1.txt. And if you click enter, can you see this? It is waiting me to enter some content. So I will just enter content, line 1, line 2, line 3, and just press Control C, and this content have been copied to this file 1. But only thing, the content of this file 1, you got it from standard input. This is a standard input. Let me view the content. So in Linux, what is the command to view the content? We use cat HDFS DFS. You can use the same cat command. I want to view file1.txt. Now please look at this. Oh, one second, let me just see whether the file was created. HDFS DFS hyphen ls slash. Oh, once again, I think it says that it's not created successfully. Let me just execute this again. How does that mistake edit? Let me just execute now file 2. I did not terminate it, I guess. So let me just enter some information, and then I'll press Control D, HDFS DFS hyphen ls. One second, let me just verify. What is the file name I gave now? It is file2.txt, HDFS DFS hyphen cat file2.txt. Yeah, can you see this? This file I did not terminate. I have to press Control D. I accidentally press Control C. You have to press Control D. That is a clear termination. And since this file is not being terminated, still it tries to getting the input from the standard input. Okay, however, so that is a fundamental difference between put and copy from local. Copy from local will just copy the file from local file system to HDFS. I'm sorry. And this put command can take the input from standard inputs like command prompt. Any single question here? This is a very important interview question. Many people are not aware of this. This point you have to make a note. Please make a note. Right, any questions before I proceed, guys? Okay, similarly, for example, so we have seen copying the files, we have seen the commands like HDFS, DFS - put. And similarly, we have also seen commands like HDFS, DFS - copy from local. Similarly, we should also be able to copy the files from HDFS to local file system. That's what we are going to do. So the same command, if you see this HDFS, DFS, instead of put, we will invoke get. And in place of copy from local, you will invoke HDFS, DFS - copy to local. This is the important thing. Any single question before I proceed? Okay. Yeah, Santosh, go ahead.
Navin, so what if I want to copy a file from any shared drive or any shared directory?
If you have the permission, if you're able to access, you will be able to copy. For example, if I want to copy from the network file system, I think you should be able to copy.
Okay.
Okay. As long as you are able to access with the terminal, you should be able to copy.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Let me proceed now. So let me show you about, once again, I see some people have raised hand, nobody. Okay. Now let me show you about this get command. Now, for example, in HDFS, we have a file by name file2.txt, but in Windows, we don't have any file by name file2.txt. So you can either invoke HDFS, DFS - get or copy to local. Both the commands are same. HDFS, DFS - get, and you want to copy in the file, which is there in the root directory, file2.txt to my desktop. So in my present working directory. Let's wait for some time. Yeah, so when I do ll, so you'll be able to get the file2.txt. I have not seen any difference between get command and copy to local. Both the commands are same. I'm not come across any difference. So you can use any of these commands to copy the content from your HDFS to local directory. Now let's see some more. For example, if you already have a file, for example, let me show you how to create a directory. What is the command in Linux to create a directory? Anybody?
mkdir.
mkdir. So the command would remain the same. HDFS, DFS - mkdir. I'm just creating a directory by name dir01 in the HDFS. Now, what would be the replication factor for this directory? HDFS, DFS - ls. The default replication factor I've configured it as 3. So for this directory also it would be 3. Please make a note. This is very important. You will not have a replication factor for a directory. Can you see this here? It is empty. You will not have any replication factor for a directory. This is very important. So now what I will do is I will try to move the file, this 1.txt, which is there in HDFS, to the directory that is dir01. So what is the command in Linux to move the file? Anybody?
mb.
Move. So I'm trying to move the file. I'm trying to move the file 1.txt to the directory 01. Both are in HDFS. Yeah, Rohit, go ahead.
Naveen, if we don't have a replication for folders, where exactly these files are being copied?
Files,
and-
for the files you'll have replication.
We are having it, but where exactly they are
In
getting
the
copied?
HDFS.
In the
It's just a
HDFS?
metadata, that's all.
Okay. Okay, it's just a metadata. Like the original file is not being copied like in a different data node or something.
It will be there. Right now I'm using a pseudo distributed mode. That means all the daemons it's a single node cluster, right?
Yeah.
So all the replication factor will be in the same machine. But if I use a fully distributed mode, then the data will be evenly distributed by breaking into blocks. It will be distributed in cluster of machines.
Okay, so in that case also for directories, we will
There will
not
be no
have-
directory, is just a metadata, that's all. For
Okay.
directory, there is nothing. It's only for the content it will store.
Okay.
Okay. That's why you see this, there's nothing replication and all.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So now we were able to move. And another thing you have to remember, one important things, if you want to view the HDFS, once again, I get some chat. Okay, Venkat, okay, just to answer your point, whether it is case sensitive, what you could have simply done, for example, you could have, now in Linux, will this work? Guys, in Linux, will this work?
No, no.
No.
No, it
Okay.
won't work.
So I think, please look at this. It clearly says these are all commands. So you have to give the command according to the case. So it's case sensitive. Okay. Now, what I was trying to tell you here is, so if you want to view the HDFS, this is very important. If you want to view the HDFS, you have something called as name node UI. This is very important. I think yesterday we saw, right? So you can browse the name node using this name node UI. But this name node UI is just read only. For example, you can only view the content of a file. You can't use this name node UI to copy the file from one place to another place. It will not allow you. This is very, very important. Okay, it is just used to view the content of a file. So for example, as I told you that yesterday, we saw that if you want to view the content of a file, I think yesterday somebody pinged me Shampa because I was not able to reply. So please make a note, Shampa. Today I will try to put it into the classrooms. So the default port of where your name node UI runs is, let it run, it's still running. And can you see this? We are making a lot of incremental changes, right? Can you see this? All these edit logs got generated. Please observe this. It is generating all the edit logs. This is very important. Okay. Yeah, browser got opened and the name node UI, please make a note. I think this link is not there in your VM. So just click on this. Okay, so just type localhost 50070. This is a name node UI. And if you go here to this utility, and if you see this browser file system, so you will be able to view the HDFS, but it is in read only. I think it is loading, just wait for some time. Yeah, can you see this? It is read only, but you can only see what is there. And if you want to download, you can just download that particular block level information by clicking on this download. Things you can do, but you can't copy all those things you can't do. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, any questions guys before I proceed? Okay, right. So same thing, for example, if I want to remove the file, same thing, HDFS DFS -RMR, and you will give the okay, sorry guys, I think I just lost. Yeah. So if you want to remove the files or a directory, the normal command in Linux we used to, you execute RM, same things here. So let me show you some more important commands, very important. Let's assume, you know, for example, in HDFS DFS -ls, let's see what is there in directory 01. And now can you tell me what is the replication factor for this file? Let it load. What is the replication factor for this 1.txt? Anybody?
3.
It is 3. Now please look at this. There can be some scenarios. There can be some scenarios where I want to change the replication factor for a new files. For example, globally, I want to configure replication factor as 3, but only for a particular directory, I want to have a different replication factor. Maybe the data what you get into the directory may be more important data, so I want more fault tolerance. So I end up creating a different replication factor apart from the global replication factor. So let me show you how to do that. So if you want to do that, you can do HDFS, DFS -set rep. -set rep. That means it is set replication. I'll set the replication factor as 4 to the complete directory 01. So when I execute this, so what you're doing now is you're going to change the replication factor for the complete directory 01. For the complete content of this directory, it got changed to replication factor 4. Now, can you see this here? Now, if you view the content, if you also view the content, now please look at this content of this directory, you will have replication factor as 4. Can you see this? So you may also have that kind of a scenarios where, I want to change the replication factor, maybe increase or decrease based on the value of your data. Now, one important question here. Now, don't you think when I move any file into this dir01, for example, we had only one file, right? We had only one.txt. If I move any other file into this dir01, don't you think it would have changed the replication for that also? Yes or no? Will it be changed or it will not be changed? Anybody? Anybody can answer.
Change actually.
It should be.
It will not change?
Yeah.
It should be changed.
Okay.
It should be changed.
Right. Now, please make a note. This is a very important interview question. Let's see. Let's move. HDFS, DFS, -put. I will just try to move this words.txt to the root directory of HDFS. That is a /dir01. Now, this is very important that the replication factor will not be changed for the new files. What happened? Sorry. It's words.txt. So for the new files, whatever you get it to the directory 01, it will not change. That is a behavior. So now let me show you that. HDFS, DFS, -ls/ when you do, so you will see, not slash, dir01. Now, if you see this, very important that you will not, the replication factor will still remain 3. This is a very, very important question because the replication factor is never to the directory. When we applied HDFS, DFS -ls/dir01 means whatever content, HDFS, DFS -set rep and a replication factor is 4 for the directory dir01 means that we are trying to change the replication factor 4 to the content of the directory. That means if you remember, I was trying to tell you that we don't have replication factor for directory at all. It is only for the content. So it will only change for the content, whatever is present at that moment of time. So next time when a new file comes, you have to change the replication factor for that file also. That is the behavior. So you have to make a note. There's no way that you can apply for entire directory because directory, first of all, there's no replication factor at all, right? Yeah. Any single question here. So we will use this command set rep to modify the replication factor. Okay, you can apply to a file or to a directory. When you apply it to a directory, it only modifies to the files present in the directory. Right. Any single question here? Okay. Similarly, there are certain commands which you have to know. Maybe they may ask you in interview commands, interview things or all. HDFS, there is a command by name TUDS. For example, if you do HDFS, DFS -help, you get a lot of commands. For example, there's another command. If you see the help here, so always this help should be handy for you. This help should be handy for you so that you will know what all commands are actually there. For example, there's another command. Can you see this TUDS? What this TUDS will do is it will try to create an empty file in the Hadoop cluster. Let me show you. HDFS, all these things is documented. I'll be sharing the document. So HDFS, DFS -touchz. I'm trying to create a file by name f1.txt, an empty file. So let me view that HDFS, DFS -cat f1.txt. Now, if you see this, we don't have any content in that directory. That's why it did not display anything. So the struts is a very handy tool to check whether you're able to copy the data to the cluster or not. So it's a very handy tool which quickly you can simply check whether is there any issue with in HDFS storage, things like that. This is very, very important thing. Similarly, there are certain statistics commands which you have to know, very important. For example, HDFS, sorry, hello. Yeah, hello.
Yes,
Guys,
ma'am, it's
right,
audible.
please, if anybody, suddenly if I broke up, you have to respond. Okay, HDFS, DFS, there's another command called stat command. So for the statistics, you can display certain attributes, like for example, it takes a lot of attributes like percentage n, which basically displays the name of the file. For example, let me show you. I will try to display for what all files we had in HDFS. I think words.txt we had, right? So I'll just give words.txt. If you look into this, it'll give you certain statistics of this words.txt. For example, let me just invoke a little more information. Now I just gave percentage n. So it just gave me, it displayed the file name along with percentage n. I think it also takes the file, for example, the block size occupied, things like that. Like for example, I think it's percentage O. So this will give you the block size occupied. And if you want the replication factor, for example, the block size is 128 MB. So when it comes to the bytes, you will calculate a big value. For example, again, for example, you can give percentage O. You have a lot of things like percentage R. You want to find out the replication factor for this file words.txt. You have percentage R, things like that. You can, you got 3 here. So like this, you have different options available. I'll be sharing a document with all these options. So if you want to find the statistics for a particular file, you can execute different options and you can get the information. Okay, right. Any questions here before I proceed to the next important commands? Okay. Now, if you remember, I was trying to tell you that, hello.
Yeah, audible.
Okay. Okay. Now, if you remember, I was always trying to tell you that, Hadoop HDFS is being designed for storing large files, right? It is not designed for storing small files. But think about a scenario. This is all scenario based, what they may ask you in interview. Think about a scenario like this. For example, let me just close this because it will eat up the memory. So now think about a scenario. Let's say you have 2 files. Let's say 1.txt and let's say 2.txt. So we have 2 files. Let me just show you this 2.txt. You have 2.txt. Now think about a scenario that, I want to move these 2 files, 1.txt and 2.txt. These are all very small files. 1.txt and 2.txt is a very small files. Now think about a scenario that I want to move these 2 files to the HDFS, but I want to merge these 2 files. This is a very, very important command which improves the performance. You understood the scenario, right? I want to move this 1.txt and 2.txt into HDFS, but it has to be merged into one single file. So that's very important. So in that kind of a scenarios, what we can do is HDFS, this is all very important command, HDFS, DFS, there's a command by name append to file. This is an important command by name append to file. Okay, so you will specify the file names. So in my case, the file names are 1.txt and 2.txt. I am copying it to the root directory. I will just name the file as result.txt. So now when I execute this, please see what happens. Let us view the result.txt. This is a very important command. So HDFS, DFS -cat, I will just view the cat result.txt. So what happens here is it tries to merge the 1.txt and the 2.txt into a new file, is what we call it as result.txt. Can you see this here? It got merged. This is a very, very important command. Sometimes when we get small files, it is always important to merge these 2 small files to a bigger file, and then we move it into the HDFS. So for that, we can simply invoke this set of commands either through the Java code or through the Python code, or there is another variant. Java provides you the API as well. We will see that. So you can also invoke any of those things. So this append to file will try to append this 1.txt and 2.txt to the result.txt. txt to the HDFS, right? Any single question here. This is a very great tool actually. It's a very great, it's an important command as well, right? Any single question here? Okay. Now look at this. This is another set of commands. For example, let me view the content of HDFS. HDFS DFS hyphen HDFS DFS hyphen ls, and let me view the content of the directory dir01. So right now we have just one file. Yeah, we have two files. So now, for example, what I want to do is I want to merge these two files. I want to merge these two files, and I want to copy to the local file system. Okay, we will see how to achieve that. Okay, one second, guys. Yeah, guys, we'll just take 5 minutes break. Is it fine with everybody?
Yes.
Okay, we'll just take 5 minutes break and then
Yeah,
we'll
yeah.
come back. So the time is exactly 10:35. Let's assume we will meet exactly at 10:40. Is that fine,
Okay.
guys?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, let's do a little recap, whatever we have done till now, and then we will proceed. Okay, so right, so let me just take a new document. Okay, so let me just do recap what we have done. So if you remember, we started with the first thing is to format the name node, and we discussed that the command to format the name node is HDFS HDFS name node hyphen format. And then what we did is we started the services. We executed a command start dfs.sh and start yarn.sh. And then we explored about DFS command, HDFS DFS hyphen put command. We understood hyphen copy from local, and we understood like hyphen get command, and we understood that hyphen copy to local, and then we saw that set rep hyphen set rep and all those ls, all those things. And then we saw another command called touch tuds command. And then we also saw about which command we saw? Hyphen append cat and is fine. Append to file with all these commands. And now we will see something called as hyphen get merge command. This is very important. So what this get merge command will do, think about a scenario that you have provided some export functionality, you have executed a query. Think about that, and the results you have stored in a directory. For example, in this case, let's assume you have stored in a directory by name dir01. So in this dir01, let's assume you have two files. So I want to copy these two files to the local file system, but it has to merge while copying. So in that case, I want to move it as one single file rather than moving individual files. So in that kind of a scenarios, we can use this merge command, HDFS DFS hyphen get merge. This is a command, get merge. So the content of dir01, which is there in HDFS, I am moving into the file, for example, in my local directory. I'll just give it as a result.txt. So this will take some time. Oh, sorry, what happened? Why get merge is not there? One second. Unknown command, HDF, one second. Sorry, HDFS, DFS, hyphen help. Oh, can you see this? It's case sensitive. Merge is small letter, okay? So HDFS, DFS, this M is small letter, okay? Get merge. So we are trying to merge the content of the directory dir. So it's not dir, it is dir01, sorry. It is dir01 into result.txt into my local file system. So now when I view this, HDFS, sorry, cat result.txt, you'll be able to see the complete content. And obviously the first file, let me open it like this. So can you see this? This is the first file content and this is the second file content. So you can use these tools for, performing various operations like, appending to a file or merging to a file, things like that. Right? Yeah. Any single question before I proceed? Yeah, Santosh, go ahead.
So if I have 3 files and I want to merge 2 files and
I think you can specify the path. For example, just try it out this, Santosh, get merge. Sorry. This get merge, I think you can give the content of the file like this. Try this, it should work. Clear, Santosh?
yeah.
Okay, I think this should work. Just try it out this one. Let me execute this. So if this command go through, then it works. No such. Okay, what do we add in that? Sorry, it is not dir, it is dir01. I'll just give a different file name. Yeah, it went through, Santosh.
Yeah.
I think you can also give pattern also, Santosh. You can try that approach.
Sure.
You understood the pattern, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can also give the kind of a pattern. For example, some patterns like, 1 dot, 1 something, the pattern all starting from 1. That way you can give, but try it out once, Santosh.
Okay.
Okay, let me just execute this. Let me just view that file. So now if you see this pattern, I gave the pattern, it worked, and it just copied to result.2.txt. Yeah, the pattern also works here.
So we have
Result
those documented in the, for the
No,
patterns or any.
No, we don't have. It goes infinite, Santosh.
Okay.
Everything, all this minute things documenting is practically not possible.
Okay.
It goes infinite. Okay, that comes by experience.
Okay.
This is
So
not normal.
In the files, if you want to filter out some data or something like that, so such filtering conditions, do we have any?
If Linux supports, it also supports.
But those are in the same file system. Where do we need to mention the full path?
Oh, you're asking whom actually?
Yeah, Naresh, actually,
No.
the directory 1.txt and directory 1 words, those are in the same file system like directory.
It is not in the same file system. No, this is in HDFS, right?
Oh, okay.
This is in HDFS and this is to the local file system.
Local file.
Clear?
Yeah, but directory 1.txt and the word.txt, those are in the local file system, right?
No, right? That's what I showed you. This dir01 is not in local file system. This is the root directory of HDFS.
Okay.
That's what we saw, right? HDFS dfs-ls/ when you give, you add dir01, right?
Okay.
You add dir01.
Yeah, got it. Yeah.
Okay. So for all these things, documentation will help you actually. When you do HDFS dfs-help and when you go to the documentation will have all the information. So you have to read this documentation. So can you see this? For example, -stat, different options, whatever is available. For example, we use this block size. So all this documentation will try to help you out with different options here. Clear, Santosh? So you have to refer to the documentation now.
Okay, Naveen.
Okay, right. Okay, let's proceed now. Let's get into the next set of important commands. Like we have something called as test command. So now if you go to the documentation here, there is another command called -test. See, these are the different attributes, what it basically tries to take. Now what this test command will do is, this -test is basically used to test whether, for a particular path is available or, a particular file is available, things like that. Let me show you that. Let's assume in HDFS, we already have a file by name, let me view the HDFS dfs-ls/. So we have the file by name 2.txt. Okay. Now, for example, look at this now, HDFS dfs. I will just use an attribute by name. Let's say first set of attribute I'll be using E, and I will just give /dir02. Now, do you have this path in the HDFS by name /dir02? Anybody? Do you have this path by name /dir02 in HDFS? Santosh?
No, I mean,
It is not there. So now look at this, the return type of this particular command. If the path exists, it will return 0. Or for example, you have to enter, echo $i, then only it will return you. Now, can you see this? It returned 1. What does 1 means? 1 means the path doesn't exist. If it returns 0, then the path exists. For example, if I give dir01, now the return type will be 0. So all these things in the documentation, whatever I showed you that help will have that information. So now can you see this? It returned 0. So at any point of time, if you want to know that a particular directory exists, and if it exists, then only you have to do certain operations. For example, you want to write a Python script or things like that, then this command gives you, it helps you. It's a very handy one. So which clearly tells you whether the given path exists or not. Okay. For example, look at this. This is another set of attributes what you can give. HDFS DFS-test is another attribute. For example, this is something called as Z. For example, for the Z, let me just give 2.txt and let me print the return. It is executing. Now, can you see this here? So what does this means is, that means there is a file. Please understand this one. Now, please look at this for me to explain. Can you see this? You have 2.txt and you have f1.txt. Now, let me also do for f1, you will understand. Both the files are there, but please look at this. Look at the return type. Look at the return type. Both the files are there. Both the files are there actually, but there is a different return type. So what does this mean is, if I give HDFS DFS-test-z, if the file name is 0 length, then it returns you 0. If the file is not 0 length, let's say for this 2.txt, we have some content. So if it is not empty file, then it return type is 1. This is very, very important. Okay, right. Any single question here? Like that, we have different options. Any single question? For example, again, there is a set of commands. For example, look at this here. So again, you can give -test and you can just give -d. There's another option called -d. What this says is the given path, whatever you've given here, if that path, if it is a directory, if the path is a directory, then it returns 0. If it is not a directory, it returns you other number. That is 1. Can you see this? Now this information you got, let's say at runtime. Now I want to find out this path is a directory or it is a file. So now with this -d, if it is a directory, it would have returned 0. If it is a path, if it is a directory with a file, if it is a file, it returns you 1. For example, I can just invoke, for example, dir01. So now in this case, can you see this? It returned me 0. So now with this, you'll be able to see that, the given path is a directory. Right? Is it clear? Any questions here? Any single question?
No.
Okay. So like this, you have different options. Not everything we use it at a time, but you have to know these options based on the when it comes based on the scenarios you may be using it. Okay. Right. So we'll just give 1 minute time. If you have any questions, you can ask. Any single question? Okay, right. I see there's no questions. Let me get into the next important set of commands. What we call it as admin commands. Very important one. Let me go to the admin commands. Very important one. So we are going to take you to the. Now we have done with DFS command. There's a lot of commands. So now let's go to another set of important commands. Is what we call it as admin commands. So if you look into the documentation here, HDFS-help when you do, can you see this? We had the file system command was what we looked. Now, can you see this? You had certain commands, what we call it as Admin commands. This is very important one. The first set of command, what I'm trying to explain you is a safe mode command. Very important. Safe mode command. This is very important. Now, what is the safe mode? Very important. Now, think about a scenario that, for example, you're trying to upgrade the set of softwares, or you don't want any new data to come into the system as long as you finish your upgrade. Upgrade means it can be scenarios where I want to add a new column to the Hive table, or I want to modify certain properties of Hive tables, things like that. I want to perform some things, but I don't want any new data to come into the HDFS. That means I want a scenario where I want to make my HDFS read only. In that kind of a scenarios, we can invoke a safe mode command. Okay, this is very, very important command. Now, please look at this. Now we were able to copy the data to the HDFS, right? Now I want HDFS to be read only because I'm performing some maintenance activity, as I told you, like adding a new column, deleting a column, changing certain permissions, it can be anything. Okay, no, I want to make my HDFS read only. So in that case, I can make use of this command HDFS. DFS admin is a command, and - safe mode, I will enter. So what happens in this case, your Hadoop HDFS will be in safe mode, means it becomes read only. Can you see this? It says safe mode is on. That means it becomes read only. I can't write any new file into the HDFS. Look at this. If I try to write HDFS DFS -TOUCH TUDS, if you remember, we explored this TUDS command, right, to create a file. So I'll just create a file by name I'll create in the root directory by name 12.txt. Can you see this? It will not allow me to create. It says it is in safe mode. Let it execute. Can you see this? It says cannot create 12.txt. The reason is name node is in safe mode. So there will be a lot of instances where by default also name node can get into safe mode. This is very important things. So in instances where a certain a threshold has been configured, and if your disk size reaches 80%, your name node should go to safe mode. You have certain configurations where you can achieve those kind of things. Or if you also want to switch to the safe mode for performing some upgrade activities, you can execute this HDFS DFS admin command, and you can switch to the safe mode. We have different attributes. For example, if you want to check whether in which mode the name node is, you can execute a command called get. So this tells you your name node is in which mode. Now in this case, it is in safe mode is on. So can you see this? It clearly says the mode of my name node is in, get returns you the status. It says safe mode is on. Similarly, if you want to leave the safe mode, you can write -safe mode leave. Yeah, Shampa, go ahead.
Yeah, when safe mode is on and we cannot write new files.
You can't. It becomes read only.
Yeah, it is for all the users, right?
It's all the users. Okay. It's for the name node.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So can you see this safe mode? This is all they may ask you in interview questions, and these are not the commands which we use it very frequently, but you have to know these commands. Very occasionally we may use these set of commands for maintenance activity, or everything would have been automated by using these things, things like that. Now look at this. This is another set of command, a very important command. So HDFS. There's a command by name, I think the report, let me just execute that. HDFS DFS admin -report. Now there's a beautiful command. Please look at this. It gives you the complete cluster details. For example, how many nodes are live. Can you see this? It clearly says about the complete cluster details. For example, it clearly told about what is the configured capacity, how much of DFS is remaining 6 GB, how much it is used, what percentage it is used, what are the under replicated blocks. When I say under replicate, this is a very good thing. Can you see this here? Under replicated blocks is 7. Why? Can you tell me why is under replicated blocks is 7? That means it's not replicated. Why? Anybody?
Those are newly created blocks.
No. For any file a copy to the HDFS, it should replicate, right? So how many files we have in HDFS, for example? So if I HDFS DFS -ls, if I do this, we have how many files? So let me see that. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and inside this directory, 2 files, 7 files we have. Now all the 7 files are not replicated. Can you see this here? It clearly says that. Very good that we saw this. Under replicated blocks are 7. Can you tell me why it is under replicated? It should have been replicated thrice, right? Now, this is a very, very important command. Yeah, Madhu, go ahead.
But there we could see the replication factor as 3 when we did
Correct. That is that replication factor, whatever is configured replication factor we are seeing there.
Oh, default one. Okay.
It's configured value. Configured value, or you have explicitly set the replication factor. That number doesn't say that it has been successfully replicated. This command is to say that, which views the health of your system to find out how many blocks are replicated or not replicated. That number is just the configured value. It doesn't say that it has replicated those many times. Is it clear? Madhu?
Yeah, it's clear.
Okay. Now that's why I was trying to tell you this. Now, why it is under replicated blocks as 7? Anybody? Can anybody think? Okay. Now the answer for this is why under replicated blocks is 7 is, now the replication factor in general should be in a separate machines. Since we are using one single machine, the same block will not be stored in the same machine. So even though you have configured 4 or 5, there is no replication at all. If the machine goes, the entire thing goes. So that is why it clearly says under replicated blocks is 7. Is it clear, guys? But in the actual environment, yeah, sorry. Please raise your hand, guys, if you have any questions. Who's that? Yeah, Venkat. Yeah, Venkat.
So he said that initially it's a pseudo mode.
What is pseudo mode?
It's a single.
So pseudo distributed mode. Yes, it is a single machine. So you will not have replication factor configured in the same machines. It should be in a separate machines. Clear? Venkat? Whoever asked.
Yeah, clear.
Okay. So this command will always help you to find out how is the health of your data. So it clearly says under replication blocks is 7. So that means 7 blocks are not replicated. Again, you have a set of commands where you can see which file is not replicated. All those things, you have a lot of commands there. And can you also see there? Yeah, Rohit, go ahead.
What is missing blocks?
Missing block is, for example, since we have configured only one, at least I mean to say, there is no, when you copy a file will be broken down into blocks, right, of size 128 MB, 128 MB, 128 MB. So a particular file, there can be scenario that a block has not been copied.
Okay.
So that missing blocks is 0. So right now there is nothing missing blocks. So all the file has been successfully copied. Replication, there is a problem. Block copy, there's no problem.
Okay.
Okay. There's a lot of information here actually. Okay. And now look at this. It also gives you the information about live data nodes. I have only one live data node here. So can you see this? I have one live data node here. So yeah, it gives you all the information about the live data node. Okay. So you can get it with -report command. This is documented. I will be sharing you that. Similarly, for example, you have also a set of commands. For example, if you remember, we were talking about rack awareness, right? So you can also find out that which data node is part of which rack. For example, I have not configured rack, but you have set of commands where you can execute that to find out which data node is part of which particular rack. So you can execute this HDFS, DFS, admin. I think there's a command by name print topology. Let me just check whether it's capital or lowercase. Print topology. I think it is T small. Yeah, I think T is right. Can you see this? Right now I don't have any rack information. So it has only one data node, and this data node is part of the default. So there is no rack. When you say default, there is no rack information. So in the production, you may see this particular information like this. For example, this information you can see like this. For example, you may configure the rack name as, let's say, RR01, and let's say RR02. You will see this kind of an information. It will be the IP address, a different IP address. So you'll have a different IP addresses like this. You will be able to see in the real cluster mode. Okay. So you can also find that the rack information of even the cluster. Okay. All these things are related to admin, but yeah, good to know that this set of commands exist. for maybe for your debugging purpose or things like that. Okay, right. Any question here? Okay, right. Let's get into the next important commands. Like, in Linux, we have a concept called quota. Can anybody tell me what is quota? Guys, anybody? When I say disk, there is something called as quota, disk quota. Anybody? Santosh?
Is it capacity?
Exactly. For example, disk quota means, let's say, think about a scenario that, HDFS, I will just create one directory, -mkdir, I'll just create a directory by name dir02. Now what I do is, I will try to set a disk quota to this directory, telling that I want at a time only, I want to store only, let's say, 3 files inside that dir02. I don't want more files. So this is also very important that, we will set a quota to a directory. We will set it a little more value, like in several 10,000 values we send it. But yeah, for demonstrate purpose, I will execute this HDFS DFS hyphen. The command is -set quota. So I will just change the set quota to 3 to the directory dir02. So I'm setting the quota to 3. Sorry, it is not DFS, right? It is DFS admin command. DFS admin, I am setting the quota to 3 to this dir01. So now let me move the files. So to this dir01 and see what happens. HDFS DFS hyphen put, you have 1.txt. I'm moving into dir02. The one file got moved. Similarly, I'm just moving it as 2.txt to dir02. And similarly, I have 3.txt or I have this words.txt. I'm moving into dir02. Now, can you see this? There'll be one hidden file. That's the reason. So 1 is exclusive. So can you see this? It clearly says that, directory 02 is exceeded. So quota is 3. The file count is 4 because you'll have 2 hidden files. One is dot and dot, right? So you'll have 2 things. So it clearly says that you can set the quota to a particular value. Okay, this is very important. So in real time, you'll have several thousands, you'll have more than some 10,000 files, something that way. So beyond that, the directory will not allow you to store more files into that particular directory. That is what is the concept of quota here. Again, you have a concept where if you want to clear the quota, you have a set of commands where you can clear the quota things. I think the command is, yeah, Venkatrao, go ahead.
Naveen, actually that it's number of files or number of, it's the size of the files.
As far as this quota is number of files.
Okay, okay.
Because this words.txt is a huge file.
Okay, yeah.
It's the number of files. And it clearly says, right?
Correct, yeah. There are
Okay.
different files.
Okay. You also have certain quotas. I think space quota also you have. For example, let me show you that HDFS DFS admin -help. When you do, you also have some quota related to space. I think set space quota or something. There's a lot of things there. Can anybody? Yeah, can you see this here? You have set space quota.
Yeah, yeah.
So you can also give the from the size also.
Okay, yeah.
Clear? Right. So similarly for it, yeah.
Normally that if we have that 100 GB, but if you give that n number of files, that won't be sufficient the storage.
No, see, when you design a pipeline architecture, at any point of time, the files should not go beyond certain number. If it goes beyond certain number, means there is a problem with upstream applications.
Okay.
So to find out, to restrict those things, you will set the quota. If you don't set the quota, you can have a directory with so many files, we will not know that whether upstream is really taking or not. So when you set a quota that, there is only this directory should contain only this much of files. If it reaches beyond that, then there is a problem with upstream. Because if you don't set this quota, the problem is all of a sudden upstream stopped and you're getting new files into this directory. And all of a sudden, once we start this upstream will have billions of records to process, which will take huge time. So we have to take the action much before.
Yeah, got it.
So for those kind of scenarios and all, we set the quota.
Yeah.
Okay. For example, we may have some rejected records putting into a directory. So we should not have rejected records at any point of time, a certain number. So you will set the quota to that directory.
In my real-time scenarios, we used to get that ratings from the rating agencies,
Uh-huh.
Bloomberg and
Uh-huh.
Moody's and S&P.
Okay.
So we used to get the ratings from all the securities. It's thousands of records.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a huge records. It is getting processed in our system.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's a number of records.
Mm-hmm. So here we don't have number of records. It is a memory space.
Memory, yes, space.
Okay. Right. Okay. So we saw this, for example, HDFS admin command, HDFS DFS admin, and we were able to get the list of topology. We executed this, right? Oh, once again, spelling wrong. Topology. And then we were able to get the list of data nodes, right? If you also have certain commands where if you want to find out, information about a specific data node, you also have that kind of a command. For example, you have a command, for example, HDFS DFS admin. All these things are related to admins. HDFS DFS admin, you have a command by name. Once again, get data node info. So for a particular data node also, you can get the information. Get data node information, and since I have only one machine, I'm just configured 127.0.0.1. I think the communication happens to the port 50020 if I remember. Let me save this. This is the default one. Yeah. Can you see this? It tells you, what is uptime and what is the software version we're using, things like that. Okay. So we can also get the data node information as well by these admin commands. All right. Any single question here, guys? Okay, good. Okay, now let's get into the next important set of commands, what we call it as yarn commands. Very important. All these things are something very important for you to know. Yarn commands. For example, this yarn command, as I told you, that it is meant for processing. Now, and we also saw that yesterday that, to execute a particular job. So the command to execute a job is yarn jar, the jar name. Yesterday we saw this, right? Yarn jar name and the program name input path and the output path. Is everybody aware of this command? Can I proceed? If you're aware of this command, then only I can proceed. Everybody is aware of this command. Can I get a confirmation, guys, please?
Yeah, Naveen.
Yeah, Naveen.
Yeah,
Yes,
thank you.
Naveen.
Right. Thanks.
It counts that number of words.
Correct. Everybody is aware how to execute the command. That is what we expect. Okay. Now, please look at this. We'll explore some more important detail. Now, let me execute that command again and see some important details. Let me go to the location wherever we have installed Hadoop. So in this, all the things has been packaged into this particular directory. That is Hadoop-MapReduce examples. So it has been packaged here. Now this yarn commands, okay, this is very important. Yarn, it also comes with a lot of important commands. So what command we saw is, the jar command, correct? Let me just go ahead. Can you see this? We saw the jar command. Now there's another important command called application. This is very, very important. So at any point of time, in the production, you will have hundreds of jobs running. I want to find out, which jobs are running, which jobs have been killed, things like that. So this yarn application command is a very handy command. Now look at this now. Yarn application -help when I do. This is a very, very important command. Please make a note, guys. This is very important. Now, can you see this here? This particular thing I have not documented. This is something new which I've added. So just make a note of all these things. So now can you see this here? This yarn application -help especially has a lot of information. For example, let's assume a scenario. You have run an application and you have realized that whatever application, whatever job which you're trying to run, there is a bug. You want to halt, you have to kill the job. correct? There can be scenarios that way. So for example, if you want to kill a job, for example, you understood that you have wrongly coded and you have executed a job, and that job execution will take up a lot of cluster resources. You want to kill a job. Think about a scenario. Or there can also be a scenario, some job is running for longer time, and that we have to debug that job why it is not running. So no point to proceed. I want to kill a job. So in all these kind of a scenarios, we get these commands very handy. So yarn application, you can use this command -kill to kill a particular job. Let me show you that. So similarly, for example, we have yarn-list. We can use this yarn-list along with this app types and app states. For example, app types means whether you want to list down the applications whose application type is MapReduce. So that means I want to list only the applications which are running on yarn, which is of type MapReduce. So if I want to list only those applications, you can use -app types. Similarly, if I want to list only the applications which are running state, and for example, it is of type Spark, then I can give this app types as Spark, and app states, we can choose a different states available here. We will see that, right? Everybody is clear what we are going to do now? Can I proceed?
Yeah, Naveen.
Okay, thank you for that. So now please look at this. Let me run some program now, and then I will show you how to kill. So before that, let me launch the browser to show you that the program is running. Job is running. So the command is yarn jar, and the jar name is Hadoop-MapReduce examples, and the program name is word count, and the file is present in the root directory words.txt, and I want the output to be stored in O_01. Output _01. Now let me not execute this first. First, let me open the resource manager UI. So right now I've not configured any queues and all. Okay, it goes to the default queue. So right now we don't have any jobs running. Okay, so a particular job will undergo so many stages: new, saving, submitted, accepted, running, finished. These are the different stages of a job. Now, when I execute this particular job, please make a note of all these things, guys. Yarn jar name. Now, can you see this here? Now the application is not yet running still. Let me just refresh. The application is not running. So by then I'll just keep my command ready. So what I'll do, yarn application -list. So this will list all the jobs which are running, all those things. So let me execute this command. Still it is not running. Can you see this? Now it just started. It's in running state. So it's connecting to the resource manager to find out the list of jobs which are running. Can you see this here? One job is running. Now when I go here and refresh, now can you see this? One job will be running state. I think it takes a little time for the browser to come. Let it run. So the job status is, no, it's job status is accepted state. It is not at running state. So now let us see. What is the job status? By then let's refresh here. So now see, can you see this? To get the job status, I told you that it can communicate to the resource manager, right? So it's communicating to the resource manager. The client is communicating to the resource manager. Can you see this? The job is running. So the job is running now. So if you want to get the list of jobs running, you can just type yarn application -list. Similarly, if you want to kill a job, yarn application -kill, and you can give the application ID here. So now let me kill the application. So it's connecting to the resource manager, and now the application is still running. The application is still running. Okay, it's still running. Let's see whether it got killed. So killed application. So now again, let me refresh this. So can you see this? It would have gone to the killed state. It would have gone to the killed state. Can you see this here? So we were able to kill an application. So with the command, yes, yarn application -kill, and this is the application ID. Similarly, for example, now let me run the job again. Let it be successful. Let it be successful this time. Before that, any questions here? Any question?
Naveen, is the word count?
Rohit, I request you every time. I think it's Rohit, right? Yeah, Rohit. Please raise hand. I will tell you to unmute. Yeah, Rohit, go ahead. Because I will not again have to switch my window and then see who is that. Yeah.
Oh. Naveen, the word count, is it a predefined thing?
It's a
right?
predefined program. That's what we saw yesterday, right? Whenever you install Hadoop, by default, some jobs, built-in jobs will come. So this word count is a built-in job. Okay. Next week, we will see how to write our own program.
Okay. So if I want to run any job, like I need to have a jar file associated to it, then only.
If you are using, if you are using Hadoop, for Hive, we have a different approach. But for simple jobs like MapReduce jobs, you want to package it as a jar file.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Now let's see whether the application has been finished executing. Oh, sorry. The problem here was this directive was already there. So I'll just give output 02. Let it run now. So let me just put it here. This is very important. So if you want to kill an application, jar-list will give you all the list of jobs. So jar-kill, and you will give the application ID. This will kill. Okay. Let's see some more. It's executing. Let it execute. So we have one job under killed, and one job under killed, and one job has been finished. Let it finish. So in this group, can I get how many are aware of Python? So you'll have a lot of activities from now onwards. How many are aware of Python? Can you just raise hand, please? Yeah, Rohit says yes. Others, how many are aware of Python? Okay, only Rohit. Okay. Pawan also says yes. Very good. Okay, great. Okay, now let's see whether the job has been finished. So the job has been finished. So now think about a scenario. I want to fetch only the jobs which have been finished. Okay, I want to fetch only the jobs which have been finished. So for that, what you can do, if you see this command yarn, sorry, not one second, yarn application -help. When you do, please look at this. When you did yarn application -help, you get one important thing called as app types. Sorry, not app states. Now what this app states will do is, this will tell you that, you want to list all the applications. Yarn application -list. I want to list all the application, but whose app states is finished. Can you see this here? So there will be so many jobs which will be running. I want to list all the jobs, for example, which are finished. So yarn application -list will list you all the jobs. Among that list, I'm saying that, app states, the state of a job should be finished. Okay, now when I click enter, so it will give me all the jobs which are finished. Can you see this? It is listing me all the jobs which are finished. This is the job which have been finished. Similarly, you will also get information like which are jobs which are different states. For example, killed. Can you see this? This is the job which was killed. So that is what is this app states is all about. So the states tells you which state you want the information. And very important to remember, this particular thing can be introduced. This particular thing can be, executed only when you add -list. That is why in my previous command also, when we invoke this app states, it was invoked through list. So first we will list. After listing, we are trying to search for state which was killed. That is very important. Okay. Let me just put this here. So please make a note of these things. This is very important. This I have not documented it. So I'll just copy paste. Okay. Now similarly, think about a scenario where, I want to list all the applications which are finished and whose app type is MapReduce. For example, if you go here, can you see this? The app type, the type of an application is MapReduce. So there can be so many jobs, right? So I want to find out, give me the list of jobs which are, for example, which are killed, and whose application type is MapReduce. So once we learn Spark, I will show you that, how to make this application type as Spark when we submit a job through Spark on Yarn. So now look at this. So what do? We are trying to list application type hyphen list whose app state is equal to finished space hyphen app type. App types is MapReduce. So it's communicating to the resource manager. Can you see this? We have only one job which has been finished and whose app type is MapReduce. For example, if I give something else, so it will not list anything because you don't have any application which is in finished state whose application type is Spark. You have to give single arrow mark, single hyphen here. Okay. So you don't have any application whose application type is Spark. So you did not get any information. Okay. This is a very, very important thing which we use it for debugging, okay, in the production. Any single question? Any single question here, guys?